Our speaker today, Masando Mike Hiraoka, received his bachelor's in religious studies from the University of Colorado in Boulder in 2004, and around that time as well, he got into Buddhist meditation practice as he traveled to India through Naropa University of Buddhist Studies. He's received his master's in consciousness studies from Holmes Institute in 2016. He has a monthly column in the Sign to Mind magazine called The Art of Being Human. Good luck. That sounds like fun. Working on it. He's also a member of CSL's Diversity Commission, whose charge is to foster a greater culture of diversity and inclusion within Centers for Spiritual Living. His greatest passions include interfaith and social justice ministry, finding that place where socially engaged participation and action can meet spiritual growth, and the creation of greater communities of kinship and belonging. And I wanted Masando to speak here because he just has a great amount of thoughtfulness. He's one of our emerging ministers, and to me, when I listen to him speak, I get a sense of the future of our movement and where it's going in so many great ways. And I can tell that he's thought about what he has to say, that he cares about the people that he's talking to, and that he's really grounded both in spirit but down to earth in a really refreshing way. So please join me in welcoming Reverend Masando.
What's up, Seal Beach? It is so good to be in Southern California. My wife grew up here in the LA area, so she gets a little emotional every time we come back here, just because, you come back to a place that's just so full of memory, and it's been really great watching her be in this place. It's really beautiful. So I want to thank this community and Josh for inviting us to come be with this community for a little bit. I am so honored to be here. In this sweet little Seal Beach town that you guys got. What a quaint place. Literally, when we first got here, we were walking out of our hotel, which is right next door, and we were trying to find our way to the beach. And so we just asked the first guy that we see, and he looks up and he's like, "Oh, hello," and he gives us directions to the beach, just down 7th or whatever. And then at the end he says, "You enjoy our lovely little town." And I was like, "Hey, don't mind if I do." And it's hard not to. I want to start skipping, or whistling, or I thought I would just see more skipping. Surprised I didn't see more of that. Because this is a beautiful place, It's hard not to just stand in awe of the architecture and the gardens and that beautiful beach and ocean that is just a few blocks away, all up and down this coast. So it made me think, why would anyone leave this place? I'm just messing with you, man. We all know why. We all get it, right? That's why you guys are able to laugh. Because we get this thing called life and how it encounters us from this deep place within. And no matter who we are, whether we're a minister or whatever place we are in our life, that call will continue to come. That call for a deeper engagement in your life, or stepping into something that maybe you've been hearing for a really long time and haven't been able to fully step into. That's true for all of us, no matter what our profession is, no matter what age we are. This is the continual engagement with this thing called life. And that's just the way it is. And how beautiful is it that we get to be part of that all the time. So congratulations, Josh, on your new adventure. He's going to my home church that I grew up in Denver. I got a lot of love for that place, and I think he's going to be really good for that place. And I know that this community too, because I know that's been created here, but I felt just being here this is a community that is vibrant with its ability to take care of each other, to be in kinship, to know that it's not about one person. What you guys are creating here is not just about one person. It's about this energy of love that gives birth to marriages that you've created. So I'm really excited for you as well, and we'll be holding all of you all in this place of love as you enter this next adventure together. So that's sort of the entryway into my talk, faith in action, right? Because when we hear the call, first of all, we just have to know that it's like an actual thing. We got to trust that thing. But then the question becomes, will we act? Will we act? Will we step through whatever barriers or fears that come up when we hear a call? And will we act? Will we take action from that place? Because really it's interesting, like social justice work, you know, I think it's kind of a trendy thing right now even. And it's this huge umbrella of what does social justice even mean, right? And you see a lot of people, and you know, myself included, when you first start getting into it, and you think you're like coming in like Mighty Mouse, you know, like, here I come to save the day. That was Andy Kaufman. That was my best Andy Kaufman impression. Wasn't that good, I know. And you come to realize, like, oh no, that's not what social justice work is about. Social justice work is actually about coming into relationship with others. And through that, somehow, from this great calling of being in relationship with others and wanting to make an impact on this world, we find some piece of ourselves that is part of that, some piece of our soul's deep calling that is also part of that. And in many ways, justice work calls that forth even more so, even greater. Because it requires we be in a place that's so deeply rooted and so grounded that we're able to engage in the world with all of its complexities in a way where we have real impact, right? So a lot of the workshop this afternoon is going to sort of delve into that. Delve into, like, why are we here? You know? What are the gifts that I have to bring to the world? Who have I come here to be? And we start from that place, and that's where we're going to start in the workshop, because without that, we're just being Mighty Mouse out there, thinking we know what's best for others, but not coming from a place of groundedness, and coming from a place where our unique gifts can be the things that come out into the world, and through that, that's where transformation happens. Because it also allows us, because let's be real, when we're coming into contact with the world, and maybe there'll be some people who don't agree with us, or maybe there'll be some people who even diminish who we are and what we're doing, that we can come back into who we've come here to be, and from that place draw upon the resources that are needed at the time to approach those conversations or those situations or whatever organizational work that you feel like you want to be part of, from a place that is full of love, full of compassion, and completely centered in who you are. So you don't have to feel defensive or diminished or diminish another person. You can be just right there in the midst and know exactly who you are and who you've come here to be. Because that's the work, right? And that's what's so beauty about justice work, because it not only asks us to discover this place within where the Spirit is actually felt, it asks us to discover that same Spirit within others as well. There's this guy, Steve Almond, who is part of the Dear Sugar podcast. Does anybody know the Dear Sugar podcast? It is, yeah, it's really good. He does it with Cheryl Strayed, who wrote the book Wild. Reese Witherspoon was in that movie that was based on that book. And he says this beautiful thing when he talks about God, when he talks about the Spirit. He says, what we seek is not just a God above us, and I'll add, not just the God within us, but the God between us. The divine that exists through our relationships with each other. And that's something that's, I think, a little bit harder to do, right? Especially when we're, coming into conversations that we may be crossing into areas where there's a person who may not agree with us, right? I think one of the best things that every single congregation in the Centers for Spiritual Living movement has going for it is that you walk into any congregation and there's people from the left and people from the right politically sitting right next to each other. That's unique. I mean, there's a lot of things that are unique about these centers. Let's be real. This is like the most eclectic. I like to call it like the church for like misfit toys. It's like everything else didn't work, but this somehow does. How'd you get here? Well, this, and I found myself here. We all got a creation story. But it's so beautiful in that, right? Our diversity is what makes us great. Our diversity is what makes us great. My favorite story about this is I was doing a men's retreat, and these two guys that are really known for their strong political views. These are the guys that are like sending out, emails to the congregation, just spouting their political views. And we were doing a men's retreat, and there's about 30 guys there, and they got room together. And they knew who each other were, and I was leading the retreat, and they come up to me beforehand, they're like, so can we change roommates? I don't know if this is going to work out. I'm just like, nope, you cannot. You'll thank me later. I think the first night was a little awkward. They probably, it's so funny though, they tried really hard not to get into it in the first night, and the first thing they start talking about is politics. I guess they were up to midnight. But it was a 3-day retreat, and by the end of the retreat, man, because we were going deep, dudes getting deep, men's retreat. By the end of it, man, they were just best friends. Literally holding hands on the way to breakfast. It's like, what is going on? This is amazing, right? But that's what this is about. Coming into kinship and belonging, man, it is so easy just to talk to people who or interact with people who look like you and speak like you, dress like you, think like you. It is way more difficult to experience this thing called oneness with someone who you feel you never want to interact with. You will pay money not to come into contact with this person. Right? But then we're talking out of one side of our mouth if we're talking about oneness and we're practicing something else. Faith in action asks us to come into integrity about this thing called oneness and inclusion. And we are prepared to do that. We're so poised to do that here. Because what's cool about this spiritual path, right? You come into it, and at first you think it's kind of like all I have to do is think happy thoughts like Peter Pan. And my life's just going to get better. You start getting into it for a while, and you realize transformation. On top of this happy thought, this thin layer of sugar, there's all this crap underneath. Damn it. And then you discover the real work, right, is discovering what that is and then coming to a deeper truth, coming to a spiritual truth about yourself. I may have come to believe all these things about myself through things my parents have said, or maybe a teacher, or some interaction that I've had with some person throughout my life. And I've come to believe this about myself, but no, there is a greater truth here. And I'm going to align with that. And that's where transformation happens. Social justice asks us to bring that same method and just widen it outside ourselves. right? In Ernest Holmes, he actually sort of talks about this collective consciousness thing, and how we can sort of look into this idea of collective consciousness to gain a greater understanding of what's going on. This is The Essential Ernest Holmes. It's my favorite book. It's a compilation of all his stuff. If you ever want to just geek out on New Thought, this is the book to do it with. This is what he says about the collective unconscious. The soul, being the seat of memory, already contains a record of everything that has ever happened to us. These memories as a whole constitute the subjective tendency of the individual life. This tendency can be changed through constant effort and a determined persistency of purpose. The soul life of all people merges, more or less, and this creates the soul life of the race, the collective subjectivity of all humanity, called by some the collective unconscious. This collective unconscious contains a record of all human events that have ever transpired. We are all, more or less, subject to this collective thought, since it acts as a powerful race suggestion. The sum total of all erroneous human belief binds until the individual mentally lifts himself above the law of averages into the higher law of spiritual individualism. There's a lot there. Ernest is kind of heady guy. You gotta read it like 3 times just to understand like 4 words. Or you can read it right before you're going to bed and it'll put you right to sleep. But, break it down a little bit. Basically what he was saying is like all of human memory, like we're all filtering through that, right? Like all of our thoughts are being filtered through this collective unconscious. So just as we can do our inner work to discover that, these deep core beliefs that we've had about ourselves that are untrue, that there's this deeper spiritual truth, we can do the same thing for us as a collective, right? But we have to be willing to, we have to be courageous enough to, and gentle enough to look at the world. Not be afraid of it. Not to be afraid of what we see. Like sometimes we need to be shocked or horrified so that we can be woken up to, and then from that place, see the collective consciousness that has been happening, and then stand for something greater. Stand for peace in the midst of polarity. Stand for justice in the midst of so much crazy injustice. Stand for love in the midst of hate. And that's what I think we're being called here to do now. All of us. What's amazing is that call is also so unique to ourselves. Because there's something within us that is being called to be a part of something greater than ourselves that is somehow a part of this evolution of the planet itself. How amazing is that? So it's so dope that you guys have this mission statement. It basically was my talk. And Mike's prayer was also my talk. I'm like, this is so cool. I don't actually have to go up there. But I want to read this to you. You guys probably know it, but I'm so happy with seeing this as your community. This is you guys. This is who you are. We are a loving spiritual sanctuary where everyone is welcome. We celebrate the abundance of life through study, inspiration, gratitude, and service. With open hearts and minds, we participate in self-transformation for a world that works for everyone. Good job. That is an amazing mission. And I have no doubt you all will achieve it. I have no doubt this is what you all and all of us have come here to do. We see the world. It's great, but sometimes it's not pretty. But we can seek to find the beauty and the wholeness and the peace within it, within ourselves, within each other, so that this thing called God, Spirit, life itself, whatever you want to call it, can reveal itself to you in places that you would have never thought it could be found. So let's ground all of this if you are feeling comfortable in some prayer. So we just come to this holy moment. The space where the divine itself is living and moving and having its being through us. And that we can feel this so deeply that we can actually see through it and see with it into that same divinity that lies in each and every person we meet. Even those that are sitting across the aisle or may have voted for someone different than we did. And we come to know that by seeing that, by being that, we are somehow also connected to this deepest part of ourselves that is yearning to come into the world, finding that place where our deepest desire, our deepest joy, and the world's greatest hunger meet, that those are in fact yearning to come together through each one of us. So we let it. And we celebrate it within ourselves and for each other each and every time we have the courage and the love and the joy to step into it in a deeper and more powerful way. How good it is to come into that awareness of who we really are and who we've come here to be. We give thanks for remembering and being reminded over and over again. We call it good because it truly is. And so it is.